Greetings and welcome to Temple Baptist Church, our devotional time. We're certainly glad that you have chose to be with us today, and those that are normally with us, you will tell from the background that we are in a different location. Here at Temple, we're trying to bring you a better quality program, and it is our prayer that it will. We're going to be at Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and we're going to look at verse 12. And then we're going to drop down to chapter 7 and look at verse 13 and 14. And so, keeping those in mind, for who knows what is good for a person in life during the few and meaningless days that pass through like a shadow? Who can tell them what will happen under the sun after they are gone? And then we go to chapter 7 and verse 13. Consider what God has done. Who can straighten what he has made crooked? When times are good, be happy, but when times are bad, consider this. God has made the one as well as the other. Therefore, no one can discover anything about the future. We look at today's text and we conclude that the author of this, if you go back to chapter 1 and verse 1, calls him the teacher. He is a fatalist. Our gloomy thoughts seem to dominate his writing. We read there, a few and meaningless days pass through like a shadow, and that, and the good and the bad stuff happen and things like that. And if we look at it from that perspective, it's not real good, is it? But let's look at it from a different point just a little bit. Let's look at what he says there in verse 13. Calls us to consider what God has done, reminding us to look carefully at how things work or how things have worked in the world. Who can straighten what God has made crooked? Who can fix the difficulties in our life? And we certainly have to say today that we all have difficulties in our lives, don't we? So who can fix those? But when we trust in God, God is good. When we trust in God's goodness, we can be happy and joyful when times are good or when times are bad. Just remember that God has given us those days as well. Let me share a old Chinese legend with you, a Chinese proverb, if you may want to call it that. There was a man that had lost one of his prized horses, and his neighbors were expressing sorrow for his loss, but he just seemed was unconcerned, and he said this: "Who knows if it may be a good thing for me?" And surprisingly, the lost horse returned home with another horse. And of course, the neighbors are congratulating him upon the horse return. And he says, "Who knows if this may be a bad thing for me?" Well, as a result, it turned out his son broke his leg riding on that new horse. And this kind of seemed like a misfortune, doesn't it? It seemed like a bad thing until the army arrived in the village to recruit all the able-bodied men to fight in the war. And so because of his son's injury, he wasn't recruited, and it ultimately could have spared him from death. Now, this Chinese legend or Chinese proverb, I think it teaches us that difficulties can be a blessing or in disguise or vice versa. And that's what Ecclesiastes is pointing out to us when it said, who knows what is good for a person in life? None of us know what the future holds, do we? None of us know what the future holds for us. An adversary may be a positive benefit, and prosperity might have ill effects. We just don't know. Who knows is what I said. Who knows what is good for a person in life? But consider what God has done. Each day offers us new opportunities. We can have joy, we can have struggles, we can have suffering, but as God's beloved children, we can rest in His sovereignty and trust Him through the good times and the bad times alike. And, God has made one as well as the other, the good and the bad. He's made that. He is with us in all the events in our lives and promises His loving care for us. And that is our prayer today, that we just learn to trust God. Who knows, except Him, what's in the future, what lies ahead. May God bless you is our prayer. Welcome you to any of our services. Sunday we have an 8 o'clock service, then Sunday school at 9, 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock Sunday night, and Wednesday night at 7. Welcome to any of those services. May God bless you is our prayer.